This is V from a Canadian RV. What I'm talking about in this video is how to extend your stay by using propane and not moving your coach. So there you would use an auxiliary tank and how you would hook that up. And what I want to do is give a big shout out to JT at Leisure Trailer here in Tecumseh, Ontario. He was great, knew his product well, and highly recommend them if you'd like to purchase parts or like to look at their lineup of RVs. Please check them out. I'll put a link at the bottom of the description to their website. But right now what I want to talk about is the different pieces and hoses that you're going to need. And with propane, everything is about valves. If you don't get the valve correct, like in this one, and this is the hose that you hook up a propane tank to your coach by turning off your main tank on the coach. This hose here, what it does, this will hook up to the extend a stay valve, and right here on this part you can now hook up an auxiliary propane fireplace or any other device that you need. And what happens is this just screws on this extension piece, and you can see there's valving and everything. So if you don't get the valves correct, like even in this one here, you can see where the pin has to press down to allow gas to flow. And also this part here, it's got an auxiliary pin here where it has to push down. So the challenge this year is going to be, of course, how to stay warm. And now that the border is closed, officially you might say, to the end of the season or the beginning of winter, you might want to be able to put propane on your coach without moving it, as a lot of the Canadian snowbirds are not allowed to pass the border with their RV, and probably some of the American snowbirds will be staying home in the northern states. It does get cold. You do want to use propane if your coach is equipped with propane. It's a little cheaper than electric to heat. So let me take you outside and show you just how I do it right at the tank, which they call extend a stay. And I'll show you how I put it on. So what you do is you turn off your propane tank here. This part right here is where the regulator is inside this part here. So this is just a cover, and that fitting right there used to be right here. So by just taking the thread off there, and you thread this part into the valve where the propane tank is, and you just extend it over here, and you put the part that was here into this end of the valve. So now you have two other valves that they give you here. The top one here, this one here, and I'll show you that in the coming parts of the video, is for supplying propane to another device. If you wanted to power it off or supply propane off your main tank, you can do it off this valve. This valve here is the valve that actually allows you to put propane into the coach from an auxiliary tank, which is sitting right there, and I'll show you the hookup for that. So right now the propane is off, and we're going to do the auxiliary propane hookup to this valve. So this is the part where we hook up the auxiliary tank on this valve right here, or this connection right here, and we'll just remove the plug. Make sure that doesn't go anywhere. Then what you do is you screw on this part. Let me get the hose lined up. So now we're connected to the inline, you might say, of the tank, and this is still off. So now what I'm going to do is hook it up to the propane tank, to the part of the coach. And now we're moving over to our propane tank here, and propane tanks come with two types of fittings on it. The newer fitting, I guess, is the outside with much bigger threads, and only takes a few turns to lock it in place. And the older threads were always internal threads, and there are of course a lot more threads, and there's a valve right in there, you can see it, and that has to press against the valve that's inside the tank here to make it all work properly. So what you do is, this is the hose, and you gotta line it up, and don't forget it's left thread. You gotta turn it to the counterclockwise for it to connect. So there it is, it's quite tight, but to do it properly you'd wanna bring that down with some channel locks and really tighten that down. And then you would turn on your tank, and you would now have propane flowing from your auxiliary tank through the lines to the extended stay valve, and it would go this way basically because you've got this valve turned off and you're not feeding any propane from your tank. So this is how to connect a auxiliary tank to the coach with an extended stay valve. Now let me show you how to take propane out of this tank using, so now what I'm going to do is I removed the hose that was on there and to the propane tank. So now what we're going to do is, this is we call the in valve, and we're going to put the cap back on, give it a little finger tight, put on the strap so that in case it ever does come off, you'll never lose it in transit. There we go, that's on there. Now say for example I wanted propane to come off my tank here, and I want to power off or power a propane fireplace or a barbecue. So what I would do is I would take this off here, take off the strap, that takes it off, and you can see that there's a valve in there again, and it has to be properly connected or it won't work. So we're going to take our other big, I believe this is a 15-foot hose, and here's the other part here. So what this does is this goes right up on there, and it's a right-hand thread. It connects on there, and what you can do with your other end here is this part here has the same fitting as a standard newer propane tank. They're both the same there, and you can now connect any other device that you need that's on here, which is the standard large fitting for propane tanks. And of course you would have to open up the valve here to allow propane to flow through here to your auxiliary device.